My wife cheated on me. I took revenge when she caught me with her friend together. Hey Reddit. This is probably going to be long, but I need to get this off my chest. And yes, I know revenge isn't healthy, but neither is what happened to me. This all started about 8 months ago, and it's been a wild ride since then. I, 34M, had been married to Sarah, 32F, for 6 years. We met in graduate school. She was studying corporate finance while I was getting my degree in software architecture. I still remember the first time I saw her in the campus coffee shop, spilling her latte all over her financial models printouts. I helped her clean up, and we ended up talking for hours. 3 years later, we had what everyone called a fairy tale wedding at a vineyard in Napa Valley. We were the couple everyone envied. Both successful professionals, she in investment banking, me in tech. We bought our dream house in the suburbs 2 years ago. 4 bedrooms, a massive kitchen, Sarah loved to cook, or at least she used to, and a backyard perfect for the kids we planned to have. We even had a dedicated future nursery that we'd occasionally stand in, imagining our future family. Now that room just feels like a monument to broken promises. Looking back, there were signs I missed, but they started so gradually that each one seemed insignificant on its own. It began around 18 months ago. Sarah's investment firm merged with a larger company, bringing in new management, including Mark, 38M, her new department head. She started coming home excited about work, talking about all the changes Mark was implementing, how he was revolutionizing their approach. I was happy for her. My wife was passionate about her career again. What's not to love? Then came the late nights. At first, it was once a week, then twice, then it became the norm rather than the exception. She installed a new home office in our basement, saying she needed a quiet space to focus. She got a new phone and was weirdly protective of it, always face down, always with her. The passcode changed from my birthday to something I didn't know. Our intimacy died a slow death. First, no more spontaneous moments. Then even our regular intimate times became scheduled, mechanical, and eventually rare. When I tried to talk about it, she blamed stress, hormones, work pressure, all reasonable explanations that I, like an idiot, accepted without question. I even started going to the gym more, thinking maybe I had let myself go. I hadn't. If anything, I was in better shape than when we married. The worst part? We still had good days. That's what makes infidelity so insidious. You get these perfect moments that make you doubt your suspicions. 2 months before I discovered everything, we had an amazing weekend in wine country. She was present, loving, just like the woman I married. Now I wonder if she was compensating for guilt, or if Mark was just out of town that weekend. The day I discovered the truth started normally. Sarah had a late meeting, again, but this time I decided to surprise her. It was our monthly anniversary, 6 years and 4 months since our wedding day. Yes, we were that couple that celebrated monthly anniversaries. I ordered from Lotus Thai, the place where we had our first date after moving to this city. The security guard, Jeff, smiled when he saw me. "She's still up there," he said. "Working hard as usual." If only he knew. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt normal. I even checked my reflection in the mirrored walls, straightened my tie. Looking back, I was about to witness the death of my marriage, and I was worried about my tie. That's when I heard them. The door to her office was slightly ajar, probably their one mistake in months of careful deception. Sarah's voice, making sounds I hadn't heard in months. Then Mark's voice, low and commanding. I stood there, frozen, the Thai food getting cold in my hands, as I watched my wife writhing on top of her boss. The takeout bag slipping from my fingers wasn't what gave me away, it was my wedding ring hitting the floor. I hadn't even realized I'd taken it off. The metallic ping echoed in the quiet hallway. Sarah's head snapped toward the door, and our eyes met. You know how people say time slows down in moments of trauma? They're right. I can still break down those next few seconds frame by frame. Sarah's eyes widening. The flush draining from her face. Her lips forming my name. Mark scrambling to cover himself with what I now realized was a $200 spreadsheet printout. The photo of our wedding day face down on her desk. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I just picked up my ring, turned around, and walked away. Behind me, I could hear Sarah calling my name, the rustle of clothes being hastily put on, but I didn't stop. Jeff the security guard looked concerned as I passed him, but I just nodded like everything was normal. I drove home in a daze, packed a bag with random clothes, later discovered I'd packed 6 socks, all different, grabbed my laptop, and our dog Max. No way was I leaving him with her. I checked into a pet-friendly Marriott, ordered a bottle of whiskey from room service, and turned off my phone. The next morning, I had 47 missed calls, 98 text messages, and 15 emails. Sarah had gone with the classic cheater's playbook: "It's not what you think. It was a mistake. Please let me explain. I still love you, and my personal favorite, he means nothing to me." Spoiler alert, she married him 6 months later. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called in sick to work, found a divorce attorney, and started documenting everything. Thank God for our prenup. Sarah had insisted on one since she came from money. Oh, the irony. That prenup she insisted on had a very specific infidelity clause that would now work against her. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyer meetings, desperate attempts by Sarah to explain, and well-meaning but exhausting interventions from family and friends. My mom flew in from Phoenix, ready to knock some sense into Sarah. Mom never liked her, turns out her intuition was spot on. Sarah's parents, pillars of their social community, were mortified, their perfect daughter, caught in a tawdry office affair. That's when Emma, 31F, entered the picture. Well, re-entered. Emma and Sarah had been best friends since their sorority days at USC. Emma was actually the one who introduced us. She'd been my colleague at my first job out of grad school. She was the maid of honor at our wedding, the person who helped me pick out Sarah's engagement ring, the friend who'd been there for every milestone of our relationship. Emma reached out about 3 weeks after D-Day. That's what we betrayed spouses call the day we discover the truth. Yeah, there are whole support groups for this stuff. She wanted to meet for coffee, said she needed to tell me something important. We met at a quiet cafe on the other side of town, away from any of our usual haunts. Emma looked terrible, like she hadn't slept in days. Turns out, she had her own confession to make. She'd suspected Sarah's affair for months. She'd seen Sarah and Mark together at a restaurant when Sarah had told everyone she was out of town for work. She'd confronted Sarah about it, only to be gaslit and manipulated into keeping quiet. She told me I was imagining things, Emma said, crying into her latte. Said I was just jealous because my own marriage had failed. Emma had divorced 2 years earlier after her husband developed a gambling addiction and lost their savings. I knew something was wrong, but she made me feel crazy for even thinking it. I should have told you anyway. I'm so sorry. I couldn't be angry with Emma. She'd been manipulated by Sarah just like I had. We ended up talking for hours that day, sharing stories about Sarah's manipulation, realizing how many times she'd played us both. It was like therapy, but with someone who actually understood all the players in the story. That coffee meeting turned into regular talks. Emma knew things about my marriage that I'd never told anyone else. She'd been there for all of it. She remembered how Sarah had gradually changed after the promotion, how she'd started treating me differently at group events, how she'd become more materialistic and status-obsessed. Emma had her own healing to do. Sarah's betrayal had forced her to confront some hard truths about their friendship. Looking back, Sarah had always been subtly competitive with Emma, always had to win at everything. When Emma's marriage fell apart, Sarah had been oddly satisfied, making comments about how at least your divorce wasn't your fault, as if that was any comfort. The divorce proceedings dragged on, despite the prenup. Sarah contested everything, claimed the affair wasn't proven, despite literal security camera footage from her office building, said it had only happened once, lie, tried to claim I was emotionally unavailable, classic projection. Her father, not wanting the scandal, offered me a significant sum to handle this quietly. I declined. Through it all, Emma became my rock. She knew which days I had court appearances and would leave coffee and donuts on my car. She took care of Max when I had late meetings with lawyers. She listened to me rant, cry, and occasionally throw things, only once, and it was just a pillow. The shift in our relationship happened so gradually that I can't point to a specific moment. Maybe it was when she helped me move into my new apartment, and we spent the evening building IKEA furniture and laughing at the ridiculous instructions. Or maybe it was when she brought soup when I got the flu, and ended up staying to watch bad Netflix movies all weekend. The first kiss happened after a particularly rough day in court. Sarah had brought Mark as moral support, flaunting their relationship. Emma came over with pizza and beer, like she had so many times before. But this time, as she was telling a funny story about Max chasing squirrels in the park, I realized I was staring at her lips. She noticed. The story trailed off. And then we were kissing. We both pulled back, shocked. "This is a bad idea," Emma said, but she didn't move away. "Probably the worst," I agreed, already leaning in again. That night changed everything. We crossed a line we couldn't uncross, and honestly, we didn't want to. The next few weeks were intense. We kept it secret, not out of shame but because we needed to figure out what it was without everyone's opinion. Was it just revenge? Trauma bonding? Or something real that had been there all along, hidden behind loyalty to Sarah? Sarah found out in the most dramatic way possible. She still had a key to my apartment, another oversight. I'd meant to change the locks, and she decided to make one last attempt at reconciliation. It was a Friday evening. Emma had come over after work, and we were, well, making good use of my kitchen counter. The look on Sarah's face when she walked in, I almost felt bad. Almost. She stood there for a moment, keys dangling from her hand, face cycling through shock, betrayal, rage, and something else. Pain, maybe? The irony of her feeling betrayed wasn't lost on any of us. What followed was the kind of scene that belongs in a soap opera. Sarah screaming about betrayal, Rich, coming from her. Emma, still adjusting her clothes, calmly pointing out the hypocrisy. Me, standing there with a half-empty wine glass, feeling like I was watching a movie of my life. How long? Sarah demanded. How long have you been screwing my best friend? Emma laughed, actually laughed. Former best friend, she corrected. And nowhere near as long as you've been screwing your boss. Sarah threw her keys at us, missed, hit a potted plant, called us every name in the book, and stormed out. Within hours, our phones exploded. Sarah had gone nuclear on social media, posting vague but obvious statements about fake friends and betrayal. The irony of her painting herself as the victim was almost entertaining. The fallout was intense. Most of our mutual friends took Sarah's side. Apparently, sleeping with your ex-wife's best friend is worse than cheating on your husband with your boss. Emma lost friends she'd had for years. I was uninvited from my golf group. Even my sister said it was kind of gross, though she came around eventually. But here's the thing, while everyone was judging us, Emma and I were falling in love. Real love, not the manufactured perfect couple love I had with Sarah. Emma saw me at my absolute worst, drunk, angry, broken, and stayed. I saw her deal with losing her best friend, her social circle, her reputation, and she stayed strong. We talked about everything. About how maybe there had always been something between us, even back when we worked together, but we'd both been too honorable to acknowledge it. About how Sarah had maybe sensed it, which explained some of her more possessive behaviors over the years. About how sometimes the worst situations bring out truths we're not ready to face. That was 6 months ago. The divorce is finally final. Sarah didn't get anything extra from the prenup, despite her best efforts. She and Mark got married in a lavish ceremony 3 months after our divorce. Guess that meant nothing affair was more serious than she admitted. They're expecting a baby now, and if you do the math on the timing. Well, let's just say I have some questions about when that really started. Emma and I moved in together last week. Too soon? Probably. But when you've already seen someone at their worst and love them anyway, what are you waiting for? We got a new place, in a new neighborhood, away from all the drama. Max loves having a yard again, and Emma spoils him rotten. Some of our friends have come around. My sister now admits that Emma and I make more sense than Sarah and I ever did. Emma's brother, who never liked Sarah, is our biggest supporter. Others still won't speak to us, and that's okay. We're learning that sometimes losing people isn't really a loss. The most interesting development? Sarah and Mark's marriage is already showing cracks. Turns out, when you start a relationship with lies and cheating, trust doesn't come easily. Emma heard through mutual friends that Sarah found messages on Mark's phone from his assistant. History repeating itself? Not our circus, not our monkeys. Last night, Emma and I were sitting on our new balcony, drinking wine and watching the sunset. Max was asleep at our feet, and we were talking about future plans. We're thinking about leaving the state entirely, maybe Colorado or Oregon. Somewhere with mountains and trails, where nobody knows our story and we can just be us. Do you regret it? Emma asked me. How it all happened. I thought about it honestly. I regret that people got hurt, I said. I regret that we can't have a normal how we got together story to tell our kids someday. But I don't regret finding my way to you. She smiled and took my hand. Kids, huh? Eventually, I said. When we're ready. When we've made our own story that has nothing to do with Sarah. So that's where we are, Reddit. Was sleeping with my ex-wife's best friend the most mature way to handle being cheated on? Probably not. Did we handle the aftermath perfectly? Definitely not. But sometimes life's biggest mistakes lead to exactly where you're supposed to be. TLDR, wife cheated with her boss for over a year. I ended up falling in love with her best friend during the divorce, and now we're living together while ex-wife is pregnant with her affair partner's baby and possibly repeating the cycle with his assistant. Edit 1. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the awards and supportive comments. To address some common questions. 1. Yes, Emma and I know our relationship started in a messy way. We've both been in therapy, separately and together, dealing with it. 2. No, we never cheated during my marriage. Emma was always just a friend until after Sarah and I separated. 3. For those asking about karma, Sarah and Mark's marriage is already showing cracks. Turns out people who get together by cheating might have trust issues. Who knew? 4. Emma and I are looking at houses in Colorado. Fresh start, new mountains to climb. 5. Max is doing great, thanks for asking. He's living his best life with 2 parents who actually make time for him. 6. Several people asked about the prenup details. I can't share specifics, but let's just say Sarah's lawyer should have read it more carefully before she signed. Edit 2. Since people keep asking, yes, we did eventually change the locks. No, Sarah doesn't have any more surprise visits planned. Yes, the kitchen counter has been thoroughly sanitized. Edit 3. For those saying this is fake because it's too perfect, I wish it was. Trust me, living through it was far messier than reading about it. And yes, people really do act this dramatically in real life, especially when caught cheating. Final update, Emma just read this post and wants me to add that she's never been happier either, despite everything. We're heading to Colorado next week to look at houses. New chapter, new beginning. Thanks for all the support, Reddit. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's finding happiness when. Final update. Hey Reddit, this will be my last update on this saga. Quick recap, wife cheated with boss, I ended up with her best friend Emma, drama ensued, we decided to move to Colorado. Well, we did it. We found a beautiful house just outside of Boulder, 3 bedrooms, huge backyard for Max, and mountain views that make every morning feel like a vacation. Emma landed a remote position with a tech startup, and I'm still working for my company but from home. The best part? Nobody here knows our scandalous history. We're just the new couple from out of state with a lovable golden retriever. Remember how I mentioned Sarah and Mark were having issues? Well, karma really is a patient friend. Sarah's brother called last week, he still talks to Emma, turns out Mark was indeed sleeping with his assistant. Sarah caught them pretty much exactly how she got caught with Mark. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so sad. They're working through it because of the baby, but, well, we all know how that usually goes. Emma and I got engaged last weekend. Nothing fancy, just us, hiking up to a gorgeous viewpoint with Max. I had the ring in my pocket, waiting for the perfect moment. She beat me to it though, pulled out her own ring for me. We both started laughing so hard we scared some nearby hikers. That's what I love about us, even our big moments have a sense of humor. To address the inevitable questions. 1. Yes, we know it's fast. 2. No, we don't care what anyone thinks anymore. 3. Yes, Max was our ring bearer, he carried both rings in his collar. 4. The wedding will be small, just close family and friends who stood by us. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best outcomes. Emma and I are proof that happiness can come from chaos, and that karma works in mysterious ways. Thanks for all the support over the past year, Reddit. This is my last post about this, we're too busy being happy to dwell on the past anymore.